Well, welcome everyone. Good morning. Good morning. And happy National Charter Schools Week and Teacher Appreciation Week. We are so excited that these 2 weeks are coinciding this year because so much of what our schools do is about giving educators the freedom that they need to serve students, to innovate, and to serve all the families who want to attend charter schools. Today we are celebrating the teachers who make this work possible in our schools. Even though the celebration is today and this week, we celebrate them every year, and it's because of them that our sector exists. So we're extremely honored to have our Changemakers this year as educators and teachers in our movement. Before we get started, I know that we have a special guest. Congresswoman Letlow is going to join us in a minute, but before she's not here yet, so I'm just going to share with you a few announcements. As all of you know, one of the key things we do at the National Alliance is support the federal charter schools program. And as all of you know, if you're not familiar with the program, we have our booklet here. It's online at publiccharters.org. I encourage you to visit the website and download this report. It has everything you need to know about the program and why it is so important to the growth of public charter schools. Since the inception of this program, $6.7 billion has been disseminated to states, high-performing CMOs, and facilities finance entities to grow charter schools around the country. So the federal government is probably one of the best friends for the charter school movement next to philanthropists around the country. And we are extremely honored and blessed to be in a position where we do this work on your behalf. But this week, we're also thrilled to have two pieces of legislation introduced. One was just introduced yesterday by Senator Cassidy and Senator Bennett. We have staff from Senator Cassidy's office, I think, in the room. Thank you for being here. So this bill will make it possible for states to access greater facilities finance funding in order for all of you who are seeking to access facilities to be able to do so. And then later this week or next week, Senator Cornyn is going to introduce another piece of legislation that will make it possible for those educators who want to launch a charter school to tap into pre-planning grants. All of you know how hard it is. If you're working full-time and you're trying to apply for a charter school, it's not that easy to put that application together and to figure out how to work with your authorizer to apply. And so these grants are going to make it possible for you to do the planning necessary and not just have to rely on your own bank account or philanthropy. So extremely excited for the leadership of our members of Congress to continue to help us at the state and local level. This week, we're very excited to announce our charter champs. We do this every year, and the list this year is as great as ever. These are congressional champs who stand with us in support of the CSP. They give floor speeches whenever possible. They visit your schools, and without them, we wouldn't have this robust federal support for charter schools. And so we already announced them, but I just want to reiterate who they are. So this year's charter champions at the federal level are Senator Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire, Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, Representative Rick Allen from Georgia, Representative Tony Cardenas from California, Representative Debbie Lesko from Arizona, and Representative Stephen Lynch from Massachusetts. We are also honoring two rising leaders this year, Representative Julia Letlow, who's going to join us in a minute from Louisiana, and Representative Lizzie Fletcher from the great state of Texas. So again, this is a big bipartisan group of leaders who stand up on our behalf. You don't see them every day, but it's because of them that we have increased funding for charter schools, and in some instances, we defend or they help us defend the charter schools program. And then last but not least, another thing that happens here in Washington, which is you're probably not as familiar with it, is a resolution that members of Congress and the Senate introduce every year to celebrate Charter Schools Week. For the past 20 years, we've had senators on both sides of the aisle introduce this resolution. And again, this year, thanks to Senator Bennett from Colorado and Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, we got another resolution signed by 20 senators from the Senate. So excited to have these assets and documents to continue to support bipartisan leadership at the federal level. And we know that your states are all different when it comes to this issue, both in terms of support, but we all know that all of the constituents we serve, are people who are in it really just for the sake of the students in the system, and that partisanship is not necessarily something that they factor in when they are living their day-to-day lives. So where are we, Jennifer? Is the Congress? Okay, great. Well, so it is now my great honor to introduce one of our 2022 Changemaker awardees, Melissa Tracy, who's going to introduce the panel today. And so I'm just going to read this since I don't want to miss anything. Melissa Tracy is a social studies teacher at Odyssey Charter School in Wilmington, Delaware. She's a former Delaware STEM Teacher of the Year. Ms. Tracy used the flexibility of the charter school model to design a combined social studies and STEM program in urban farming, which produces food for the school and the surrounding community each month. Her students have a hydroponic learning lab, I had to look that up, in their classroom, as well as traditional raised garden beds, and have donated over 5,000 pounds of fresh produce to individuals in need. Her program is now being replicated in nearby district schools, complete with a student-to-student mentoring program. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Tracy to the podium.
Thank you, Nina. It's a true pleasure to be here with the 2023 Changemakers. I was privileged to be recognized last year for my work at a time where it's incredibly difficult as an educator. Political discourse, COVID, and so it just really helped to reinvigorate me. And it was an honor truly shared with my students. I always say one of the things that we're proud is not only are we assisting with workforce development, but we feed our community at a time when food costs are rising and the food insecurity rate continues to rise as well. I'd now like to take a time to ask our 2023 Changemakers to join me and to take their seats up here as I introduce them. Cielo Alcosta teaches 8th grade language arts, sponsors several student clubs, and is alumni of SLAM Miami. When she's not in the classroom with students, she's pursuing a graduate degree in school counseling with the aspiration to continue to help support the emotional and social well-being of her students. She believes it is essential for educators to teach students more than academic lessons, but to also instill the importance of kindness, compassion, and self-growth. Third grade teacher Nathaniel Dunn III was named the 2021 Henry Nelson Teacher of Excellence by the Alabama Charter School Commission. A graduate of Woodlawn High School, Mr. Dunn's return to his community through his role at I3 Academy brings his teaching experience full circle. He said, "I've always wanted to become the teacher that I wanted when I was in school. Being fun, being empathetic and consistent brings the best qualities out of my students." His fellow teachers say he is relational, inspiring, and innovative educator. He is viewed as a leader, but also humble and eager to be a team player. As a Southside baseball coach and mentor throughout the years, Mr. Dunn's role as teacher is just one way he impacts the lives of the children in his community. Mr. Dunn has taught kindergarten, God bless you. I have a kindergartner, 2nd grade, and currently teaches 3rd grade at I3 Academy. He holds a bachelor's degree in business management from Miles College and a master's degree in elementary education from Liberty University. Outside of his regular school day, he is an Ed Farm Teacher Fellow. This program enhances the learning experience of teachers and equips them to be designers and facilitators of future-focused learning. Tiffany Ortego is the kindergarten lead teacher at One City Schools. Only in her 5th year of early childhood education, Ms. Ortego is loved by all of her students. Every day, she goes above and beyond to share her passion for learning and to help her students create the tools they need to recognize their full potential. Tiffany and her co-teacher work together to create an amazing classroom culture where students feel accepted and they feel heard. Ms. Ortego is very patient. She's supportive with her scholars, especially the scholars that need more attention. Her students feel at home in her classroom. In her time at One City, she's helped to create the preschool garden space and created the school's 4K volunteer reading and early literacy program. She has also been the champion of Angie Play curriculum, and she's done several presentations about it to her parents. She does an outstanding job communicating with her parents, and she has earned the National Early Childhood Program accreditation. Coach Jamar Roundtree is a health and physical education teacher at Center City Public Charter School, Brightwood campus. In the Center City network, he also serves as the district teacher, lead for the physical education and health department. Outside of Center City, he has led the state-level physical education leadership cadre in evaluating elementary and secondary health curricula in order to share the information with physical educators throughout the district. He teaches not only game activities and sports, but also teaches students about their social, emotional, and mental growth. He has established in-school, after-school, and weekend partnerships with organizations to help kids grow in all facets of life. He serves as the voice of the community, and he has relationships with every student and family at Center City PCS Brightwood. Coach Roundtree was a finalist for the 2023 National Teacher of the Year. Dr. Elisa Russell is a master teacher and math department head at Life School Oak Cliff Public Charter School near Dallas. She has 13 years of teaching experience and inspires students of all backgrounds and abilities to learn. She uses Socratic seminar, differentiated group modeling, and peer partnership grouping as innovative instructional practices in her mathematics classroom. She works to ensure that every student in her classroom receives a customized instructional approach based on his or her individual needs. Dr. Russell is an instructional coach for her peers to maximize instructional effectiveness. She uplifts her school community in diverse ways, including as a sponsor for both the National Honor Society and as a STEP team on campus. Dr. Russell was recently appointed to an advisory council convened by Texas Senator Royce West and has served on a Texas Education Agency think tank. She engaged more than 150 of her colleagues as part of the Circle of Advocates for Defending Public Charter Schools. She has also been named a Life Schools District Teacher of the Year, Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce Teacher of the Year, and the Texas Public Charter Schools Association Teacher of the Year. I also will share, we just realized that I will be hosting one of her students this summer in Delaware, and that speaks to the smallness of the charter school network. You can be at an event in DC, meet someone from Texas, and have something in common with each other. Round of applause for her, please. Singer started his career in urban education 20 years ago as a high school math teacher. While working relentlessly to change the life trajectory of high school students, he recognized the need to serve the same children in the same community, but at a much younger age. After working tirelessly with local families and a dedicated team of educators, University Prep opened its doors in August of 2011 to 100 kindergartners and first grade scholars, and has since grown to a network of 2 public charter schools serving nearly 700 children. He served as the founding principal for the first 5 years of the organization's history and transitioned into an executive director role when the second campus opened, a position he still holds today. In December of 2021, after nearly a year of co-design efforts with a group of incredible parent leaders in the Commerce City community, University Prep was approved by the local Board of Education to open its 3rd campus as part of Adams 14 School District. He was deeply involved in the chartering process for the new UPrep school and has continued to oversee the network of schools inside and outside of Denver that will soon grow to 3. Andrea Thompson is a 3rd and 4th grade teacher at Dream Dene Charter School in Shiprock, New Mexico. She's a Teach Plus Fellow, a passionate educator, and community leader from the Dene tribe. She's also Vice President of the Navajo Nation Board of Education. Ms. Thompson is an educator who believes that students of all cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds deserve access to excellent educators and high-quality instruction within their own communities. Coming from a family of educators and school administrators, Ms. Thompson has a true passion for teaching and preparing the next generation of learners. She feels very privileged to work in her home community and enjoys helping her students to excel outside of the classroom setting as an elementary cross-country coach and a middle school robotics team mentor. In addition to helping children, Ms. Thompson is committed to empowering teachers and parent advocacy to help improve education in New Mexico. Recently, she was recognized by the New Mexico House of Representatives for significant achievements to the community. Congratulations to all of our Changemakers. Now I would like to ask Mr. George Parker to join us to moderate our panel discussion. Mr. Parker is the Senior Advisor at the National Alliance with a focus on school support and a distinguished educator and expert on teaching and school governance. Mr. Parker spent 30 years as a math teacher and educator in DC Public Schools and served as president of the Washington Teachers Union. Mr. Parker, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Melissa, and good morning, everyone. Before I get started, I'm going to ask Nina to come up, and Representative Lidlow is here, and we'd like for you to introduce her. All right, Nina.
Thank you so much, George. So it is now my great honor to introduce to you Representative Lidlow from the great state of Louisiana. Ms. Lidlow serves on the House Education Workforce Committee and on the Appropriations Committees. And in these roles, these are the key roles you need in order to support charter schools and charter school funding. Ms. Lidlow, we would love for you to come up here and give us some welcoming remarks and anything else that's on your mind. She has 5,000 students and roughly 10 charter schools in her district. Thank you so much for that introduction. And wow, what an honor and a privilege to be with all of you today, especially our educators and teachers. And I think you know this about me, but I am passionate about education. It's my background. I believe, I know I'm singing to the choir here. I believe it is the answer to everything. It's the answer to so many of our woes. And I am just so grateful to you for what you do day in and day out to educate our next generation of leaders, to educate my Jeremiah over here. I'm just so proud and grateful to you. And wherever I go, whoever I speak to, I tell them, thank a teacher today. Take time out of your day to say thank you, because not only has these past 3 years been really hard on you, and I acknowledge that, but your lifetime you've committed to be selfless and serve others. And I'm just incredibly grateful to be a representative for you, to be a champion for you. My background is in higher education, so I know that I have a lot to learn about charter schools, but I'm just so grateful for you for partnering with me and teaching me more about how I can be a better advocate for you and be a champion for you. And please know this too, on that appropriations seat, I plan to use every second of it to continue to fight for funding for you, because you deserve that. I believe you educate a child, you give them a future. I tell my colleagues all the time, we believe in education from every level, early childhood, K through 12, our trade schools, community colleges, all the way to our four-year institutions, and a graduate degree if someone so desires. So please know that you have a champion in me. Call on me anytime. But again, this is not about me. It's about you. It's about what you're doing for our children. I am indebted to you. I'm grateful to you. God bless you all. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Representative Ludlow, and we appreciate all that you're doing to support charter schools. So, look at this all-star panel. You know, those of you who are NBA, like the NBA, you know, they have the all-star game. This is our all-star team, and it's quite a team, isn't it? Let's give them another hand. So one of the things that we want to know from this panel, you know, you are some awesome teachers. And I can tell you today is a happy day for me, having taught school for 30 years, is to see this all-star team here. And I'm just as excited as everyone else here is to learn what you have to say about education and the strategies that you use and et cetera at your school. So we're going to get right on with it. Our first question for the panel is going to be a little more personal. We want to ask you, number one, how did you come to be a teacher? And then more specifically, a charter school teacher. So what drew you to charter schools and what drew you to the teaching profession? And Andrea, we're going to start with you.
Okay. Is it on? Okay. Good morning, Yate, Shea, Andrea Thomasin, Chef, Bedanishle, Cloke, Bushichi, Kishilchitni, Deshache, Toda Kuja Deshanella. So, the reason I became an educator is to help to for our students, our Indigenous students, to know their identity. Coming from a family of educators, I think it's really important for our students to know who they are and to believe that they have an opportunity to make an impact in their lives. And so that's what led me to become an educator and into a charter school. It gave me the opportunity to be in a school that allowed the flexibility and the opportunity for students to be embraced in a learning environment that allowed them to their culture and their language to be the center around that. So I appreciate the opportunity for charter schools to give students that opportunity. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Alyssa?
Well, I come from a long line of educators, so I knew without a shadow of a doubt I would never be a teacher. And fast forward, the firm I was working at began a partnership with the local school, volunteering to help tutor the students. And so I was tutoring the students, and I would see the light bulb come on. I was like, well, this is kind of cool. I kind of like this. So after much internal searching, I decided I would go ahead and join the family business and become a teacher. And my children were already attending a charter school, and I noticed that the innovative and individualized lessons my children would bring home and share with me, that they not only had the light bulb come on, but they were also able to extend that light bulb and apply it to different parts of their lives. And so it was just a natural fit for me to work at a charter school.
Awesome. And we were talking earlier and kind of had the same experience, right? We both were math majors, and neither one of us in our vision had planned to be a teacher. And it just happened to be by experience that we became teachers. I wanted to be an entertainer. I just knew I was supposed to be next to Michael Jackson. But it didn't work out that way. And as a substitute teacher, I was substitute teaching, and I came home and it's like, wow, I like that. No, I don't. But I tell you, it happen the same way, that it's a calling, and that when you enjoy working with students and you love it, you can't resist it. Okay, let's see who's next here. That would be, Miss Ciela.
Okay, I like the Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, my name is Cielo Acosta, and I'm a current 8th grade language arts teacher at SLAM Miami. So although you had asked 2 questions, I do feel that for me, the 2 questions kind of go hand in hand. The reason that I started to teach, and the reason that I started to teach, let alone at a charter school, is because I'm actually a SLAM alumni, which is an alumni from the school that I currently teach at. At a very early age, I met Mr. Bretto, which is currently in the room, along with some other administrators, and I didn't have a sense of direction, and they were able to provide that for me. They were able to provide a sense of hope, and I saw how impactful and moving that was for me and who I am as a professional, and I couldn't wait to experience that and allow to give that to other students as well.
Awesome. David.
I always loved children. My whole life, when I was a child, I loved littler children. Babysat, taught Sunday school, the Jewish version. And I went to school to study mathematics, like my 2 colleagues here, and I thought we had an innumeracy problem. We talk a lot about illiteracy in America, but we have math incompetence in our country. I thought I could maybe fix that problem, right? You're 21 and you're quite ignorant, and you think you can fix the world's problems. Still trying. But I really thought we could fix innumeracy, and I started teaching high school mathematics and poured my heart and soul into it. Still love that profession, and realized that 15 was too late for kids to be on a path to science and engineering and, quite frankly, economic mobility, because the STEM fields is where you make money. It's where you're desired in the workforce. It's where you can transform generational poverty issues. And said, what if we did this when you were 5 instead of 15? And charter schools were the vehicle for social entrepreneurship. If charter schools didn't exist, there would not have been a pathway to found a school alongside of families and community, right where I taught high school, and say, we're just going to work with you, but the 5-year-old version of you. And here we are, 14 years later from an idea, 12 years from opening, and our first graduates who are in 1st grade in 2011 are walking the high school stage, and 81% are on path to success in post-secondary. So the idea that social entrepreneurship can exist in the education space, in the public education space, charter schools were the only vehicle to bring about the change that we saw necessary in our community, and I'm grateful that the law ever existed in 1993, and we're here today.
Oh, awesome. Coach.
It's really hard to go after David. So I'm Jamar Roundtree, 2023 DC Teacher of the Year. Just want to make sure we're clear on that. You're here in my home. So I got into teaching. Really, I wanted to One, I had a Mr. Parker, not this Mr. Parker, but I had a Mr. Parker who was also a sub, so it's very ironic when we were talking. I was like, are you sure you're not related? But Mr. Parker was the one who inspired me, who gave me the faith in teachers, because I didn't have that faith when I was in 6th grade. And so that gave me the faith in teachers to respect the profession. And I had always seen myself as a mentor when I was younger. I started off, I was a Boys and Girls kid, Boys and Girls Club kid. And so I grew up around individuals who was always trying to put me on the right path but couldn't do it. And so I wanted to be that change maker for my students. And charter schools gave me the autonomy to do that. They gave me the opportunity to be able to bring not only my passions to life, but also my students' passions to life.
I want to do a follow-up question with you, having been the DC Teacher of the Year, but also being a black male, and in the area of physical education. It's been quite a while since we've had a black male that has been Teacher of the Year in the area of physical education. Talk to us just a little bit about that accomplishment.
Yeah, not many people know that in the National Teacher of the Year program, there has never been a physical education teacher to have ever won. And I am the first to ever win as a black educator and as physical education to ever be a finalist. So I am honored and humbled to be that trailblazer that now puts physical education and health on the map for teachers not only in the district, but across the nation.
Awesome. Okay, Nathaniel. Coach Dunn.
Good morning. My name is Nathaniel Dunn. I'm from I3 Academy in Birmingham, Alabama. The reason I wanted to be a teacher is because I can remember my mom always told me, you need to be a teacher. And I often thought that. And I thought it was something else that I could be good at. But I enjoy helping people, making people better, because I was taught that way. People made me better, and it made me want to pour back into my students. Michael Jackson once said, the best way to receive success in life is by watching and seeing. And I had the opportunity to do that in this profession, starting from being an assistant, and just by watching and seeing other teachers and picking up on things that they delivered very well and adding it to my craft, it encouraged me and it inspired me to want to be it myself. There was one time someone said, "Why do you want to be a teacher?" You shouldn't be a teacher, but whenever you hear that type of conversation, that's something that you need to tap into. I enjoy working with children. I enjoy seeing the best out of them. And as far as a charter school has been very instrumental for me because it's allowed me the freedom to be able to teach again without the pressure. I enjoy it. And one thing that our school leader told us once, he said that working at a charter school is not easy. And that always inspires me on days that are hard, because this is a real job and we see it every day. This is something that we enjoy doing, and this is something that we need support in doing, and we want to continue to do that.
Okay, awesome. And Tiffany.
I'm going to take this one. Sorry, I have to share. Sharing's caring, right? Growing up, through my childhood, we moved around a lot, but my one stable, safe space was school. I loved going to school. I loved the connections I made, and I was very thankful for the educators that I did have, because they inspired me with the classroom environments that they made. They made me realize how fun it is to learn, how important it is, how to care for people, how to be a kind and just genuinely a good person. And so I always knew I wanted to be one going through high school. And then I got to college, and then I was like, oh, there's little people. Those little people are very interesting. they are so honest and forthcoming with themselves, and they have so much to give. And so what I love about the charter school aspect is that there is a freedom, as many of my colleagues up here have said, to be able to do the best for them. I have so many children in my class from various diverse backgrounds. I have children who have various needs, differing from person to person. Some need more help than others, and it's important to teach all of them how to help each other. And so that is what I love about my charter school, is that we're a community and we work together and we hold each other up.
Awesome. I think we're okay on time. We're good. Okay, I want to go back to a question. I talked with you earlier, Cielo,
Yes.
about a quote I read that you made, and that was, "Be something you love and understand." Could you talk to us a little bit about what you meant about that and telling that to your students?
Of course. So what he's referring to is this quote that I actually go by, and it says, "Be something you love and understand." And I think through life, identifying your individuality is something that's very challenging, and it's important to grasp onto the things that you want to be. So unfortunately, growing up, I didn't have much accessibility to financial resources. My parents were immigrants, and they came into this country, and they worked very hard to give me the things that we had. So from a very early age, I knew that I wanted to be loving. I knew that I wanted to be giving, understanding, helpful, successful, and be somebody that when you walked in the room, you were respected. So I worked really hard at becoming something that I love and working towards understanding it. And it's a quote that also bleeds into my profession as an educator, because I want children to understand what's their value, what's their purpose, and what are the things that they're great for, so that they can truly be in love with themselves and with their purpose in this world.
Wow, okay, thank you. So we're going to move on now to another question, and we're all aware pretty much that education is a challenge, and the teaching profession is a challenge today. If you had one thing, and you don't have to limit it to one thing, that you would recommend to school leaders, local school leaders, state school leaders, and congressional leaders, if there was one thing that you could say to them, that if you do this, this could help the teaching profession, what would it be? And let's start with you, Andrea, again.
Okay. So I teach at Draindena Charter School in Shiprock, and it is the only charter school that is located on the Navajo Nation. And so with that, I believe that it's really important. One of the reasons I chose to teach there and teach within the community that I am in is I was raised there. I was raised by my grandparents. And I believe that having students who reflect the identities and look like, or teachers who look like the students they serve is really important. It's very powerful. When we teach our lessons, when we teach about historical our curriculum and what we talk about in creating relationships, especially now with our students, is very powerful. Coming from New Mexico, the diversity within the state is it's wonderful, and we have a lot of great people, and I got a lot of great charter school leaders right now who were once teachers and had the same idea of wanting to do the same thing within their communities. And with that, I believe that it's really important that we try to support higher education and create a pipeline of teachers of color so that they can return to their communities, give them the experiences within their university programs to go and handle the challenges that they face outside of the urban areas that their schools are located on. I was very fortunate to attend the University of New Mexico and get placed in a charter school for my teaching experience. And with that, felt like I was provided the skills that I needed to go back into the public school system I was at that was really struggling and challenged at the time. And I knew that going in there, but I wanted to make a change. I wanted to have that opportunity that I didn't have growing up, where I had teachers that looked like me, that knew and understood the challenges that I had as a learner, but also put the language and culture that I feel is very important for our students to understand, to make them so that they're able to navigate in two worlds, as we say it, as Indigenous people, but also to go out of our four sacred mountains, as we say, outside of our tribal communities and become leaders themselves.
Oh, awesome. Okay, and now this would be Alyssa.
Hi. Well, I would tell my legislators that we need a Harvard Law Review of education. There are a lot of teachers out there doing really great things, and as a teacher, I would like to know those things because I truly believe that as a teacher, it is my job to educate every child in my classroom where they need to be educated and the way they need to be educated. And so to know what every teacher is doing would give me like a toolbox of supplies that I can pull out as I see which child needs what. I mean, if you think about screwdrivers, not one screwdriver will do every job. And so as a teacher, I would say we just need lots of educational tools of what's proven to work in the classroom to make our classrooms better.
Okay. Cielo.
It is my personal belief that additional resources can be extremely beneficial to schools. As you guys know, unfortunately, our education system is experiencing a teacher shortage. So with additional resources, our administrators would be able to provide competitive salaries that can increase the retention of teachers. In addition to that, additional funding can also help diversify and inclusify the instruction that teachers provide their students. With that being said, I also think that the additional funding could be beneficial to engage and include parents within the community because I believe it all starts from home.
Awesome. David?
Yeah, I echo my colleagues. Look forward to working with Harvard. But I would say, one, we have to do anything and everything to elevate the profession. I think we are failing miserably as a country to elevate the teaching profession as a profession. That means real salaries and real money and homeowners in communities who are educators. We can't diversify the workforce and say, I know you've taken on all this debt as a person of color and you're trying to get out of abject poverty and here's $45,000, be a teacher. It's a mismatch between the dollars and what we say matters. So we have to fix that problem. That's number one. And I think number two is we can't have any infighting about pathways to teaching. Colorado started this year with 3,000 teachers missing from classrooms. And we want to argue about licensing approaches. I don't care what the approach is. Find great people, get them in classrooms, support the hell out of them, and then hold them accountable to excellence while you love them simultaneously. And if they don't work out, that's okay. That happens in lots of professions. But we have to have the widest funnel humanly possible to attract talented individuals to be in our schools. We can't minimize the funnel. We have to maximize it. So one, we got to figure out the dollars, and two, we got to figure out how to flood our classrooms with excellence from every walk of earth across our country and make sure our kids have the strongest professional educators in front of them.
Awesome. Shamar.
Always after a singer. I guess I could sing the song "Money, Money, Money, Money." Echoing all of my Changemakers up here, funds is always going to be the issue, right? Funds is always going to be the issue. But I'm going to come from the other standpoint of enrichment. I'm going to come from the standpoint of, the arts and physical education and elevating that as a profession and making sure that that is also on the minds of our individuals who are making those choices, who are putting those policies in place, because we forget how important positions like mine are in the community, in our school culture, in the way that we interact with our parents, and how we do a lot of that work behind the scenes, and how a lot of that work that needs to be elevated and be seen. As well as we're saying, ELA and math need to be elevated, but enrichment programs also need to be elevated, and we also need to be seen and heard.
Awesome. Nathaniel.
I have 4 words. again, like my colleagues, teachers need more pay. I look at, I guess I'm here for advocating for my colleagues and my coworkers. I see the look in their faces. They work extremely hard. This is the hardest working group of individuals I have ever worked with in our charter school. They show up every single day, and I think they should be rewarded and compensated for that. They do go above and beyond, doing things that they're the mother, the father, the grandmother. We play so many roles to where it's extremely important, and we all have the same goal. We want the best for the children. Also, I think that if I were talking to our administration, our local representatives, I feel that we need more programs in place for parents to help parents, assist parents in helping their children throughout their educational journey. Because we can only we do a lot as teachers, but they do go home, and they need to have that same empowerment at home. They need to have the same fulfillment that they're getting at school at home. Not saying that all homes don't do that, but there are times as a teacher you notice things, and as an educator, I do realize that that's one program that needs to be in place, something for the whole family.
Awesome. Okay. Tiffany?
I think they've said mostly everything. But I want to reiterate that teachers don't do this work for the recognition or like the spotlight of it all. We do it for our kids. And we're working nearly 10-hour days most of the time because we take our work home with us. I think about my students when I'm not at work. I think about them all the time. I hope that they're okay. I hope that they're happy, that they're safe. I work and think on the weekends when I'm doing my gardening program, or I'm thinking of ways to improve the literacy program for my little ones. We need to be seen, and there needs to be respect with that scene and not constant judgment, because we're all human at the center of it all. And so I think everybody up here has made valid points. Pay, be seen, just, be kind.
Tiffany, just in some of my outside conversations with you and Jabbar, you both talked about the importance of social-emotional learning. I know that the Anji Play program focuses on that, and you and I had a conversation about what makes you successful, and then we talked about the impact of social or emotional communication with students. Could you talk about that just a little bit, about how important that is in creating your success with students?
Okay, I'll only say a little bit. So as I've said, I work with little people, like 4 or 5-year-olds. Emotions are a big deal, and in order to become like a functioning human being in society that knows what their goals are, they know what their dreams are, they have all those seeds planted when they're little, but sometimes when someone takes your toy, you get real mad about it, and so you want to do something about it. So social emotional learning and problem solving skills and critical thinking skills, they all happen from the very start of school, and we need to be able to lift our children up in a positive way and not always constant reprimands on things that they're doing wrong. It's like, I see you. I see that you're frustrated, and that's okay. I see that you're sad. To our boys out there, it's okay to be sad. Make sure that they're acknowledged, that they're hugged, that they're embraced. Show them paths that they can take to do different things to solve their problem rather than try and get that toy back in a forceful way that ends in tears. But it's so important to your overall health. Feeling good about yourself and knowing that you're a good person, that your self-worth is important. It starts from when you're very little too. And so I just always push for advocacy with that.
One thing I didn't mention is that I teach preschool all the way to 8th grade, so I teach all 11 grades. So I definitely feel that, and the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds are my favorite grades to teach because they are so candid and real. And if everyone talked like a 3, 4, and 5-year-old, we'd have some education would be at the top of the list for everyone. Yeah, things would get done. One of the conversations that we had, Mr. Parker and I, was around the idea of respect. And so I teach respect as soon as I walk into the classroom. Day one it's a part of my procedure that I go through when I talk to my kids as 3-year-olds, when I talk to my kids as 8th graders. And we go through that kind of same program. I'll give you an example. We have a conflict corner in my gym. And so the conflict corner is a space where students can take other kids to have conversations. So if they did something to you, you take them to the conflict corner. And there's these 6 things that they have to accomplish when they leave while they're in the conflict corner. And then they can hug it out or fist pump or high five, however they want to end the solution or whatever solution they come to. But that's one avenue. Another avenue is that I have that I started. When the kids come into my classroom, they pick up different colored clothespins that depict their emotions. So you have blue that represents sad, you have green that represents happy. And so kids are now walking around with clothespins that represent their emotions. And other kids can see that other kids are feeling the way that they're feeling. And so now they're having even more conversations around why am I feeling this way? Or I see that you're feeling this way, so let's communicate. And that offsets when they're on the playground and they can pull a friend aside and say, I saw that you were sad in Coach Rountrey's class. We want to talk about it. Or I saw that you were happy. What do you do why are you so happy? Even having those conversations trickles off into the classroom. And now kids are being more social. Kids are using their emotions in the right way, as we were talking about. And they are being able to have better days because they are having these conversations, because they are talking to each other, and because they can not only acknowledge somebody else's emotions, but they can also communicate that to a teacher and to an adult. As we know, during the pandemic, our kids lost that. I saw that a lot of our kids lost the empathy to have conversation. They lost the emotion to take when someone takes something from you, how to deal with that emotion. And this is another way that kids can show their emotions, but have their emotions be heard, and then also express their emotions.
Awesome. I thought that was it was good to do this and to focus on this question, because I find in a lot of my experience that we use terms sometimes in education that folks don't really get. And there's a lot of talk about social emotional learning. But the key is, what does that look like to the average person? When we're talking to parents, is we talk about social emotional learning, but you're putting examples there, and I think that's important. But that social emotional learning is something that I think that as people understand it more, they will understand the need for it. Yeah. Okay, I think Andrea, and I think you, David, too, and a couple of people talked about we need to get out there and recruit and et cetera, teachers. I was reading some data, I think it's maybe Ed Week, but he talked about the NEA had done a survey of teachers, and this was recently, I can't remember, maybe it was 22 or 23, but 55% of the teachers that they interviewed indicated that they were going to leave the profession early because of the workload, the stress, and et cetera. So with that in mind, we have a shortage of teachers. What are some of the things that you would recommend that school leaders and political leaders and decision makers in general could do to recruit, develop, and be sure to retain high-quality teachers like yourself? Now, this question would be for Tiffany, and we also give it to David. But if someone else wants to jump in, we're good on time. So if you can answer, and then if someone else wants to jump in, that's great, because I think that's an important question. How do we get teachers and then high-quality teachers into this profession?
This is basically piggybacking off our last conversation, because children grow up into adults, and I think mental health is important for everybody. And this is kind of just an umbrella topic, because there's so many raindrops that fall on the umbrella. You have financial needs, you have proper and lifelong lasting professional development learning, rather than things that get you by through a year or a few weeks, learning things like anti-bias education, like properly, and how to get those tools into your classroom. And also just letting us be heard. There are so many times where decisions are being made and it's not teachers making those decisions. And so I think that's very impactful where like you say you want us to do a good job and then you keep changing the way we're supposed to do our job. Let us be part of the conversation. I think that's a good place to start to keep on good teachers, because if we feel seen and heard and respected, then we'll keep doing our darndest.
And David, I want to just add a little touch to that same question for you, because you're a former teacher, but you're now a school leader. And so as a school leader, what are some of the things that you have implemented in order to try to attract and recruit and retain quality teachers?
That's a great question. First, just trust Tiffany and do what she says, I think is probably the number one thing we could do.
I'll take that.
I would say on the front end, one, you have to have a team environment in which everyone's rowing together. Everybody wants to work in a setting in which you're part of a united team. Same mission, same values, same beliefs, same attitude about kids. So you have to create a school setting in which that is true as a starting point. Without that adult culture component, anything you do is superficial and performative. So that's the first things first. But then I think it's about investing in and loving people. Everyone wants to work in a place where their manager cares about them, where they're seen, heard, known, and valued, and invested in. And that is true in the education profession, no different than in the private sector or nonprofit organizations outside of teaching. So a few things we think about that are different. We think about compensation differently. I think this generation will have 4 different careers on average by 32. Not 4 different jobs, careers. So as much as I love my fellow math teachers up here who have been doing the grind for a long time, 30-year math teachers in urban education are a dying breed. I wish that was not true, but I think it is the truth. And so you can't think of slow linear growth of compensation. So what we think about is, how do we exponentially increase your salary in your first 5 years to get you to a salary that is meaningful and valued? And then maybe we start to flatten it out a little bit later. But those first 5 years actually matter a lot more, because there is no gold watch at 35. It won't exist. So we need to save money for a rainy day when you're in your 29th year teaching high school math. We need to pay you right now. So we think differently about compensation and what that curve looks like over time. I would say we have to have transparent and accessible pathways to leadership inside and outside of the classroom, where you know, how do I grow? How do I move forward? Internal, external professional development. Getting sent to Washington, D.C. Our teachers should be experiencing the same things that Deloitte goes, you're great, we're going to do all these things for you, right? What do schools do? Here's a backpack. Here's our certificate painted out on paper that's not even matte, right? Like, not because schools don't want to do more, because they can or haven't. And we have to think differently about how we invest in people. We have a 5-year club at UPrep, University of Prep in Denver. Once you've done 5 years, you become a special part of this elite group. And we introduce you to the 5-year club with a giant check in the summer, and the family you've had the most impact on in your life as an educator comes and speaks about you. And then in the spring, we do this dinner. So we're at Cap Grill last week in Denver. Music teachers, right? Talk about enrichment, right? At Cap Grill. We're in this special fancy room. Who's right outside of the room? The Phoenix Suns. So we're having dinner alongside Chris Paul. That's what it should feel like to be an exceptional educator, and it doesn't feel that way. And so when I say invest in people, love on people, that's the kind of thing I mean. And then it's other elements, whether it's how do we give you flex days that are not your PTO, but give you a chance to get your groceries, go to the doctor, maybe go to the bathroom if you're a teacher would be great.
Yes,
so things like flex days. Tiffany's got to go to the bathroom. And then I think something we can work on with legislators that'd be huge is housing access. If the average house in Denver is about to be $1 million and you're making $52,000, we got a mismatch. And so I think the pathway for folks in service industries, we are in a public service industry in education. Teaching, nursing, fire professionals, fire safety, whoever you are, you need a different pathway to access home ownership, which creates generational wealth. And so I think there are processes and pathways we can create with our legislators to change housing if we can't fully change funding, which is another way to think about compensation differently.
Awesome. I'm glad that, and this may be the old union leadership piece of me talking now, but I'm glad to hear you talking about the money part, because very often when you talk to teachers and you bring up money, folks will say, well, you don't teach for money, you teach for the kids. And so it causes people never to really talk about what is the kind of professional income and compensation teachers deserve. So I'm glad to hear teachers like you talking about the fact that one of the problems in recruiting and retaining outstanding people is that we don't pay teachers enough. Very simple. So I'm glad to see strong teachers like you talking about it and encourage you to talk about it even more.
I just wanted to quickly add, we have 3 exceptional and fantastic male teachers up here winning this award this year, and that is phenomenal. We need more male educators, and we had a conversation this morning about how we think money is a big part of that because they don't see it as a worthy career because you don't get paid for it. You really don't. And so I think making that change will help diversify the teaching education pool of people wanting to pursue it.
Yeah, and I think, Nathan, you started out with 3 words. Or was it 4 words? Or
4
words. 4
Teachers
words.
need more pay.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
And to second to add to that, there are 2 black male educators as the 2% that are educating our nation's kids.
I would like to add something. So with that, I think that in New Mexico, there was a teacher network that was started. And I feel like just with the teacher voice and adding that advocacy into the educational policies that are set, like bringing their voices into the table. And because a lot of what I've experienced or what I'm noticing is that what is set for students in the urban areas of some of our schools really hinder some of the flexibility or some of the things that we're able to do. But also it gives people the opportunity to hear from diverse populations from the students that they actually are serving. So I think that that's really important when it comes to policy. Yeah.
That teacher voice piece you talk about is a very important piece, and I found that teachers feel that they want to have their voices heard. And you all feel the same pretty much, that that's one of the big recruitment pieces, is that teachers' voices need to be heard and they want to feel that they're valued?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we talked about retention. Now I want to talk a little bit about, there's a lot of talk and research has shown that there was student learning loss resulting from the pandemic. The question here is, what are some of the strategies that you would recommend that school leaders in general, whether it's at your school or just nationally, what are some of the things that you feel could be implemented in order for us to address the student learning loss that has occurred as a result of the pandemic? I want to ask, Andrea, Nathan, and Alyssa to respond to that, but also, we're good with time, that anyone else who wants to jump in, you can jump in.
She changed.
Okay.
I was like,
Okay, Andrea, seems like we're back to you.
Okay, so I think for students, it's building a sense of community, allowing them to come into the school and feel that they belong, that despite the challenges they may have encountered before coming in, that they feel safe, they feel accepted, and know that their peers are understanding. And so that it depends on the teacher, and how you create that environment is critical. We talked about social emotional learning already, and I believe that that is something that I have noticed of our students who throughout our Navajo Nation really struggled during the pandemic. We're probably in remote learning a lot longer than a lot of schools, other schools. And as the students have returned, being able to feel, learning skills that should have been taught previously for them. And so getting them to come in, giving them trying to teach them these critical thinking skills, these abilities to be able to communicate. How do you learn to socialize? I think that was a really big part of building a classroom that's going to love learning, and building relationships, understanding the different needs of all of our students. Our charter serves kindergarten through 5th grade, and we have 2 grade levels in a classroom. And instead of focusing on the individual grade of the student, it's looking at what are the needs of those students and how can we create a learning path for each individual student that will allow them to be successful if they can't read, and if there's a friend or if there's a student of one of their peers that is able to help and to support. I think that's really important. That's what I think would be very important, is just building relationships. You learn a lot through speaking with students and then learning about and building a partnership with their families as well, and bringing them into that conversation as a way to really help them to move forward and to improve.
Okay. Nathan, what kind of strategies are you using in your classroom, and then maybe even at your school, in terms to address the learning loss problem?
I will say, first off, as we all know, the pandemic has exposed education. With that being said, there needs to be something in place for the whole child. In my classroom, I spend a lot of time building relationships. And I found with that, students are able to trust me more through FaceTime, text messages. I tell them to text me, check on me, and they do that. They hold me to it. I think that we need to invest more time as far as developing the entire child. With that being said, sometimes you have to go to a ball game. Sometimes you have to plan little events with them to get them to buy back into learning again. One of our favorite words in our classroom is grit. Around 1 o'clock, they get really tired. They do. They want to give up. And just developing that motivation. I think our students need to be motivated, just like we do. I know I do a lot better when I'm motivated. And I think our students don't receive that as much. They receive it from us, but there needs to be something in place where we can motivate the whole child. I had another thought. Also, in our classroom, we make sure we check on each other. We say, how's your heart? How are you feeling? How are you today? We do a feelings check-in every day. With learning in our classroom, in education, we tend to, like I said, we get tired really fast. Just developing some type of strategy to be able to take more breaks, implement something that they enjoy. Also, we need to learn from them. I remember one time this year, it was very humbling. I asked my students, what will make me a better teacher to you? And, some of the responses that I received, it humbled me. I couldn't get upset or mad or anything like that. I just had to receive it and do it. And they responded a lot better.
Okay. Alyssa.
I know it sounds pat, but education. Students, as my colleagues have said, they need to know that we care about them. And if they know that we care about them, then they'll be more vested in what we tell them. And so, right now it is harder teaching because there are lots of educational gaps that must be addressed in order for students to be successful. I teach math. Math builds on prior knowledge, and so I have to make sure they have that prior knowledge, or they're going to continue to be lost. So we have an education session in which I have my students identify their career aspirations. And then we look at where mathematics skills fit into those career aspirations. And by getting them to internalize their desire to close that gap, it makes it easier for me to meet them where they are. And the autonomy of charter schools allows me to literally, if I need to go back to kindergarten to get them up, I can do that with them one-on-one or in small groups as needed. But they have the self-efficacy built within them that they want to get it because now they understand, this is going to help me be what I want to be as an adult.
I know that there was some extra funding that was provided federally to help school districts try to overcome the learning loss. What have you experienced? And anybody can respond to this. What have you experienced in terms of the impact of those fundings at your school? Have you seen additional resources or et cetera that could help you address the learning loss issues?
If you don't mind, I'll just answer particularly for our network. But to go back to the idea of what we in our network are doing, one concept that we really instill is to fail forward, to teach kids resiliency and to teach kids that failing is okay. I think in a lot of schools, there is a stigma around failing. And that stigma rides our kids really hard. And that idea of if you fail, this will happen and you can't come back from that really does something to our kids. And I know it did something to me when I was growing up. You know, whenever I missed a shot or didn't catch a football, or I missed a tackle, or I'm a very bad multiple test taker. And so whenever I was like, oh, I think I'm going to fail this, I just completely gave up. And so one concept that I teach my students is around failing forward, that you have to try in order to fail, and that sometimes you do fail, but what do you do after that? And so teaching that resiliency. In my network, we've done a bunch of different things. We've created SEL programs. We've done tutoring programs. We've created math small groups for kids to come after school. We've done enrichment programs before school so that students not only are getting the ELA and math help that they so need, but they're getting it in a different way that meets their needs. And so that's one of the ways that we and my network have been using those funds.
Okay, thank you. And then talking about the impact of the pandemic and all on students, there seems to be now a significant increase in the number of mental challenges that students are having after the pandemic, and not just students, could be teachers and other school staff. What do you see? What are you doing, first of all, in your classrooms to address the mental challenges that students are confronting as a result of the pandemic, and in a larger sense, your schools? And what do you think we should be doing as a nation, pretty much, to try to address the mental health issues that students are now experiencing behind that? I want to ask Andrea, no, this is going to be Jamar and Cielo, but then anyone else who wants to chime in, let's chime in. Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Please.
Okay. So something that I actually did to address the pandemic issues and the way that it's negatively impacted our students is I actually went into counseling. So besides teaching after school, I'm completing my graduate program, about halfway done, for school counseling. So with school counseling, it has provided me with a broader range of knowledge in the sense of being able to identify trauma, being able to identify anxiety, things like depression, to see what are the external and internal factors and motivators of our students. So it's been giving me the opportunity to understand them at a deeper level. Because I'm able to understand them at a deeper level, I'm able to differentiate and I'm able to individualize any kind of instructional plan within my classroom walls to ensure that I'm still fulfilling their needs, not only academically, but also emotionally as well.
I'm not a counselor, so good luck with that. No, I guess we as educators are all counselors in some sense, but to get to that next level is amazing. One of the things that I do in my classroom, and I spread that wealth, is we do something called restorative practices, restorative circles. And so this gives kids the opportunity to address issues they may be coming to your classroom with, or just issues that they may be feeling in their community. And I'm fortunate enough that I live in the community that I teach in, which is so impactful because whatever's happening in the neighborhood for that day, for that week, I also have experienced it and can talk to the truths of what's happening. And I think that's so powerful for our students to be able to relate. So restorative circles is one way. I think giving students and teachers the space to be able to address the issues that they're coming to school with. We have a 24-hour or 48-hour rule where if a teacher's having some sort of either a traumatic situation or problem, even with a staff member, we have 48 hours to talk about it. But I think the other side is that teachers need that space to be able, in that safe space, and I say that safe space, because we say it's a safe space and then it's not a safe space. And that's huge, to be able to address issues that they're feeling. In the teaching profession, we hear a lot of no, but we don't tell our students no, right? So as professionals, we get the no from individuals who are calling the shots for us, but we don't tell our students no. And that needs to change. And we have to band together as teachers to be able to say that, because if one teacher's the outlier, right, a lot of teachers shed away from that outlier, so which means we're not saying the same thing together as a whole unit. And so that's some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that we could do to change the way that we are essentially being handled as teachers.
I wanted to add to that. In our classroom, we do a lot of huddle ups. Giving children strategies to work out their own problems, but they have to be shown. We have a lot of class meetings several times a day, just to check on their heart, see how they're doing, see how they can navigate through their problems. And with our huddle ups, it's almost like football. We'll have the team, our group of kids who are having a problem around each other, have one person on their knee explaining, seeing what's going on. So giving them strategies, they actually get excited about it.
Okay, awesome.
I'd like to add, at our district, we have what we call life leader attributes. And part of those attributes are being self-aware and globally conscious. And what we do, though, is we actually train our students in those attributes so that when situations come up, they know how to deal with them and how to act respectfully to others as they're dealing with the situation, as well as to deal with others who are also going through problems. And then we also model it. Like in my classroom, I purposely make mistakes so the students can see how I respond. Like Jamar said, we have to teach them how to fail forward. It's okay to fail, but it's not the end of the game. And so that helps your mental abilities to keep going and know that I indeed am someone worth being in the world.
And the only thing I would build is I think we're demanding too much of our educators. Be the therapist, be the psychologist, be the social worker. Sorry, that was not an intentional joke. It's terrible. This is not the building to make that comment. That was an error. I am Canadian, but dual citizen. But I think what the educators up here are doing is incredible, right? What Nathaniel does in his classroom, what Coach Roundtree does, if we could have a conflict corner in this building, it'd probably be helpful. So, but we were asking too much, and then it's too burdensome and too stressful, and you don't last. And so I think public partnerships, private-public partnerships in which mental health professionals are available to schools at a much higher rate, in person, as part of a community, representative of the student population being served, is incredibly important at the system level. So every school's access to mental health services that can respond quickly, can build relationships, don't operate on a school day. You need to visit with a family's home in the evening to work with the parents, because you're working with a child, you've got to work with mom or dad or uncle or aunt. And so these system-wide issues can't solely be on the backs of teachers. We're asking too much. They're already doing enough. And so if we can have that kind of professional expertise and service coupled with the kind of approaches that educators of this panel are taking in their classrooms, then we actually see change. But right now, I think our approach is demanding too much of educators who are already stretched too thin.
And I would like to add, I think that at our school, our students attend Navajo language and culture, and that's something that I believe is really helping our students to really get through a lot of the challenges, singing songs in Navajo and the language, and we have a phenomenal Navajo educator or a language teacher, and hearing them speak it, even for myself as an adult, I'm not a fluent speaker, but I can understand it, and there's a lot of meaning behind it of what can be spoken. And so that opportunity for our students to hear that, to learn more about their background, their culture, and then take that back into their home and share that with their families, I think is really important, and it's helping to heal both the child and the parents and the families themselves. So in their tribal communities and with other communities that have their languages that are not maybe something that is encouraged within the school systems, I think that would be something that would be very beneficial in helping people to heal.
Awesome. So we're almost ready to wrap up. This question is one that is kind of broad-based and philosophical, but I think it has a deep meaning. And that is, what is your hope for the teaching profession and for public education in general, for the future of public education? And if we have enough time, I have a follow-up to that. But I'd like for each of you just to respond to that as you look at where you are, your experiences, and what you would like to see in the future. What do you see? What is your hope for the future of the teaching profession and public education in general? And Andrea?
Okay, so
You're like that student that's in the front row.
I asked before.
Move to the back row,
I was like, can I go last? No, I think creating more spaces, more schools. I love in New Mexico, the charter sector and how it allows for the creativity and the innovation of the passion that people bring to understanding the needs of our students and what it is and their desires. And if we can create schools and models around helping to build schools within the communities that the students come from, so that they're not having to leave their family and they don't have to leave their space to have access to high quality education. I believe that if we empower our teachers, if we create policy that allows teachers to be creative and have alternative approaches, and there's more support systems, what I would like is for more charter schools within tribal communities that allow our Native people to be in charge of their education and what they want for their students.
Okay. Okay, Alyssa?
Well, I would like to see all educational institutions come together as one cohesive unit. There is no one child. There's no one-size-fits-all child. I mean, even one-size-fits-all clothes are not tailored to really fit all. And so I believe all education institutions have something to offer to each type of child. And so if we can come together as a cohesive unit, because it's really about the child. It's really about educating the child and building them for a successful future. So if we can all come together and put all the best stuff together and do what's right for our children.
Piggybacking on what you were saying about not one size fits all, is that one of the reasons why you support charters, that
Yes.
charters are able to
Yes.
tailor? Okay,
Yes, most definitely.
okay. Who's next here? Cielo.
Oh, Cielo.
Well, my aspiration and my hope for the education system to come is a community that respects, empowers teacher, whether it's, financially or giving the freedom within the classroom to embed a curriculum that is not only data-driven, but is also best for everyone in the classroom. And that is, administrators, that is parents, that is, first and foremost, and the most important, students, because their well-being is also extremely important, and this way we can all work towards a community and towards a goal together.
Awesome. David.
Yeah, I think my greatest hope is that in my next 20 years, done 20, hope to do 40, that teaching is the thing to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing better in America you could do as a profession than choose to teach. We got a long way to go to get there. We're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum right now. But that's all right. There was a moment, I think, during the JFK administration where the Peace Corps was the thing to do. I think there was a moment under Obama when teaching in the inner city was a thing to do. And these were powerful moments with a lot of energy and momentum in our space. And I'd like to see that come back. And I'd like people to leave their undergraduate degree programs or any of the post-secondary options they were pursuing and say, wow, the best thing I could do right now in my community, and the thing I'm so excited to do, is to teach kids. That is my greatest hope.
Awesome. Jamar?
Setting me up for failure, actually. Talking about failing.
Fail forward, baby.
Failing forward. God, David. No, we are changemakers for a reason, and we're all going to be up here saying the same thing. And my biggest thing, just like everyone, that I can say is that I just don't want this conversation to die. I think we have all been in PDs, right, where we've gotten these amazing trainings and said our school says we're going to do them, we're going to use them, and we don't. Or we've had conversations with people around making connections, about collaborating, about networking, and we don't. And so my biggest hope is that this conversation keeps going, and that we do something with the conversation that we're having, and we don't just let it die.
Nathan?
I feel that we as educators and of charters, we need to continue to set the trend. I think that this is a moment that should be continued to build off what we learned this week. Also, I feel like, again, continuing to build on what we already have by incorporating others to buy into what we have and to stay true to what we believe in. Charter teachers show up every day for the whole child. I'm just a strict believer in developing a whole child. We need to continue to do that if we want to see some type of result in a positive way.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're worried about going after one. I'm going after all of them. I don't want us to lose the spark. It's following what everyone up here has said. Teaching is such a powerful profession that gets so underhanded over and over again. We'll have these amazing moments, these amazing conversations, amazing trainings, and then it just fizzles out until we're ready to bring it back up again when we realize, oh, there's a problem. Let's do something. I love the school I work at. I think One City and all charter schools have a firm belief that not all children are the same. They have different needs. They have different expectations that we need to meet with them. And I think that having those kind of thoughts that we're doing this for our kids is ultimately our goal. So upping the funding for schools and teachers in general, recognizing us, let us be part of the movements that we're trying to make will set us on the right path.
The second part of that question, and just feel free to respond to it, is after saying what your hope is, how can you use your exceptionalism as a teacher to inspire your colleagues and future generations of teachers to help fulfill that hope that you have?
I got to jump fast before before David goes. Just want to make sure we're clear.
There's no order in this one.
Yeah,
so
but I'm PE, just going to be first. I think to be able to be on this platform is amazing, and I think to be able to have a voice, right, and to be able to do what we're going to do today, right, is super, super important. And I think one of the ways that I plan to continue this is I'm going to reach out to the individuals who are here with me. That's one way to start. And share that wealth with my colleagues. And to share what I learned from each individual that's up here with my colleagues and with my administrators and with my curriculum director, so that way we can continue to build and create this. I call it a blockbuster. If you think about when you go into a blockbuster, you just pick out a movie, you select a genre, whatever the case may be. But why not have that for education? Why not be able to go into a place where you can find a lesson based upon what you're trying to accomplish for that any given day? So that's how I'm going to continue that. Beat that, David.
Okay. Before we end, is there another comment on that? No, you got it out.
I believe it's important to advocate for education. The Advocacy Leadership Institute group that I'm a part of has taught teachers and parents how to get out there and just advocate and demand that our students are educated to be successful. And so I just think advocating and teaching our students how to advocate is going to make a difference.
Okay.
Excuse me, I would like to also add on. So it kind of reminds me of the quote that says, I can't change the world, but I can, it's toss a coin and create ripples in the water. And I think a great way to put into place what we hope to see is to teach, not just children, but also teach teachers. There's a lot of times where I come in extra early in the morning and I teach teachers how to use a specific program, what's the best way to go about the curriculum. They're having a challenging time with a specific student. How can we go best about it to support that student? And I think through teaching everyone in the building, not just our children, it really creates a movement for the things that we aspire to be. Be something you love and understand, right?
Mm-hmm. I like that. All right, anybody else have a comment?
I would just like to piggyback off that. I had the opportunity to speak with Ron Clark, and I asked him, I said, Ron, how do you get your school to be this way? What do you do, man? And he told me simply, he said, it starts with one. So if we start from one charter to the next charter to the next charter, I think that's the way we can make it happen. We are the trendsetters. We are the trendsetters of education.
And a great way that our school actually teaches teachers is we have this mentorship program. It's a mentor and a mentee where they hold some of their most strongest teachers and they have them recruit about 3 teachers that just came into the building. And we stay with those mentees throughout the entire year and we teach them the most valuable things about our school, what's the way to go around, how to go about the curriculum, how to do differentiated instruction, how to lesson plan, how to use a Promethean board. So I think through mentorship programs where teachers can partner up within their own schools and really get to know the school at a deeper level will also be a great way too.
Awesome. So this
I'd like to add something.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I believe that just advocating, empowering our teachers, especially as an Indigenous teacher, we don't have a lot of teachers that are really welcome into the spaces at times. A lot of it is maybe because we're a little bit more reserved and we're quieter. We don't say much. We don't put ourselves out there. But trying to be a role model, how do we encourage those teachers to know that they have something to share? Their own story is very powerful. So getting them to build the confidence and to join networks to learn how to grow within themselves, but also know that they are role models for our students. And so with that, I believe that just as it's been mentioned here, learning from other educators is very empowering and very impactful. So I will continue to reach out to everyone here as well as other teachers that I meet along the way.
Awesome. So I think that would be a great piece. David, you had something?
I don't know if Coach wants it. Let me give it a go. The question is, how can you use your exceptional gifts? I don't think we have exceptional gifts. I think, to use Nathaniel's word, we have exceptional grit. There's a group of educators with exceptional grit. And the one thing we can do is stay gritty and show up every day. And what impacts a community is when you see Coach in his gym every day. You show up to school and know that he's a stable force in your life no matter what instability surrounds you. That's what we can all be, is gritty change makers every day. And then get out of the way and make sure that the kids' voices and the voices of the families in our community are the stories that are being told. And amplify those voices with megaphones Last Wednesday we celebrated our first graduating class from 2011 who are walking the stage at high school this year, and they're the keynote speakers. And they're meeting up at Howard this fall, right, 12 years later. And the things they're going to do are going to change the world, but how do we make sure we elevate their voice and their power and their strength and get gritty on their behalf and in service and servant to them? And I think that's the work we have to do.
Awesome.
I'd like to add one more thing.
So you okay following David?
No, I'm joking. I don't. Thank you for saying that. I was just joking. But if we're talking about teaching to the whole child, but let's also teach to the whole teacher, right? Make sure that's clear.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. First of all, I have thoroughly enjoyed this. And I want to thank each and every one of you for, first of all, your exceptionalism as teachers, but the answers you provided for us today. So just let's give them a round of applause for just being the teachers they are. And before I bring Nina back up, I'd just like to say I know that you have support and supporters, and I can see where your school leaders and family members are here. So I'd just like to ask those people who are supporting these excellent teachers if you would just stand so we can give you an applause. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And Nina, it's all yours.
No, and please join me in thanking George for moderating this excellent panel.
Good job.
And also, please join me in thanking the National Alliance team for putting this great event together. And let's continue the celebration throughout the year. Charter Schools Week doesn't have to be confined to just 1 week. Teacher Appreciation Week doesn't just have to be this 1 week. We heard from these amazing leaders, and I feel like I just want to be with them all the time now. So let's continue kind of the spirit of the can-do spirit, the grittiness that we talked about in order to pay it forward. And good luck today on your visits to members of Congress. Thank you all.
Thank you.